Claude Frollo, the Justice Minister and main antagonist of Hunchback of Notre Dame, is arguably one of the most creepy and disgusting villains that Disney has ever brought to the big screen. Not only did he frolic around Paris as if he were above everyone else, but his messed up relationship with Esmeralda shed a whole new light on his character and officially landed him in the role of creep. But what most people don't know is what in his past caused him to become such a vile guy. After taking a deep dive into his backstory and character, it's clear what in Frollo's life caused him to become such a creepy villain in the first place. But just so we don't all end up like Esmeralda, I want to give a special shout out to today's sponsor, Atlas VPN, who can actually keep you safe from creepy people like Frollo. The last thing you want is your internet experience ruined by some creep online. Lucky for us, Atlas VPN is running a summer sale where you can sign up for Atlas VPN for only $1.83 per month, plus 3 months extra, which will give you protection from ads, malware, and weird people. Villains like Frollo will never be able to access your Google searches or any of your important data thanks to Atlas. With a 30-day money-back guarantee, Atlas VPN is the most affordable online protection and allows you to stream content from all over the world that would typically be blocked based on your IPN address. This means more shows on your favorite services like Netflix or Hulu, and that goes for all of your devices because Atlas VPN allows you to protect every device you own on a single subscription with no additional cost. Make sure to take advantage of this limited time opportunity and sign up for Atlas VPN today to grab the best and most affordable protection on the market for only $1.83 per month plus 3 months extra. And keep gross people like Claude Frollo from tracking your data. Too bad VPNs weren't there during Esmeralda's time. She could have used one. Although oddly enough, Frollo certainly didn't consider himself a villain or a creep for that matter. No, Claude Frollo believed wholeheartedly that hunting down and killing the gypsies was the righteous thing to do because they had differing beliefs, and that's what made him so horrifying and creepy. In his eyes, he was just doing his job as the Parisian Justice Minister. In his eyes, the only organization that Frollo had to answer to was the church, but not necessarily the people of the church like the Archbishop who tried to stop him from killing Quasimodo after he had killed his mother. No, as you saw from the movie, the only reason he began to show any fear or possible signs of remorse was when he looked up Notre Dame and saw the many statues of the saints staring back down at him in dismay. And while religion itself isn't a creepy concept, the way that Claude Frollo viewed it and used it as a way to gain power was. On top of that, Frollo knew that he had a massive political influence and a lot of authority throughout the streets of Paris, so he was able to push his intolerant views of sinners onto those around him easily. And that's horrifying to think about. Claude Frollo had an entire army of guards hunting down a group of people simply because he thought his ideals were better than theirs. And because he felt like he was doing the right thing, he didn't have guilt or show any signs of feeling guilty for his actions. Literally, the only time in the entire movie that Frollo seemed to feel bad about what he had done was at the very beginning after he killed Quasimodo's mother. And even then, it really looked like he was more afraid of what the saints and God thought of him rather than feeling remorseful about taking an innocent life and almost killing a baby. This sick idea that he was this all-powerful, untouchable minister that seemed to think that he was above sin became dangerous for anyone who was around Frollo, including Quasimodo, Esmeralda, and even Phoebus, who seemed to see through Frollo's charade almost right away. But that can't be the only thing that made such an elderly and frail-looking man so creepy and dangerous. In fact, there may have been a side of Claude that Disney chose to omit from the movie, and that's the fact that he had a fear of women. That's right, there's a good reason to believe that Frollo was gynophobic and allowed that fear to drive his more villainous and creepy tendencies. And before you dismiss this concept, you should know that it actually came from the same source that Disney used when creating the movie in the first place. You see, before Disney released The Hunchback of Notre Dame in 1996, the most popular version of the story was actually the novel, which was written by Victor Hugo in 1831. And in that book, while Frollo becomes the villain that Disney made him out to be, his journey there is a bit different. Sadly, though, he still turned out just as creepy in the book as he did in Disney's version of the story. In the novel, Frollo was orphaned as a child, but still grew up very religious, and through his studies, he even became the archdeacon. As a young adult, during a holiday known as Quasimodo Sunday, Frollo discovered a deformed child and decided to take him in and name him after the holiday. So in the book, Frollo had a bit of a soft side. Sadly, that's sort of where his soft side ends, as he did some pretty heinous acts throughout the novel, most of which were a result of a particular fear that he had known as gynophobia, or fear of women. This led Frollo to become very isolated from society, that is, until he became very passionate about a young gypsy girl named Esmeralda. Oh yeah, and in the book, Esmeralda was only 16 at the time Claude Frollo started showing interest in her. Talk about extra creepy. Now this is where the movie and the book get back in line with one another, in the sense that Frollo became extra terrifying when he began feeling what he believed was a holy sin: lust. Claude would have been a character that was creepy enough without having him become obsessed with a woman to the point where he thought that if he couldn't have her, he'd have to kill her. And yeah, that's exactly what happened in the movie, and the book for that matter. During the iconic number Hellfire, he sang about being purer than the common folk and most others around him, which is why he felt perplexed that he was so obsessed with a woman. He claimed that he couldn't help but see her dancing in the flames before him as if she was calling to him. He sang, "I feel her, I see her," and then proceeded to describe the sun bouncing from her raven-colored hair. But to him, that couldn't mean that he was in love or that he found a woman beautiful. No, Frollo believed that he was above all that and never would catch feelings, and for the likes of a gypsy no less. So in his mind there was only one answer, and it was that his lust came from a spell that she cast on him as if she was a demon who was born of hellfire. And what he decided to do next really proved that he was as creepy gets. Throughout the song, he can be heard saying, "It's not my fault," as if he's putting the blame on Esmeralda for the way that he felt about her, even though she did nothing other than be herself. He calls her the witch who set this flame, and then proceeds to describe what he was going to do to her, and both options were horrible. It's honestly hard to figure out which one should be labeled creepier, because he basically came to the conclusion that he could either have Esmeralda all to himself, or he can kill her by setting her ablaze. During the bridge of the song Hellfire, Frollo belts out, "Destroy Esmeralda, let her taste the fires of hell, or let her be mine and mine alone." And while he's staring at a flame that was shaped like her burning alive, it was visually horrifying and really sold the fact that Claude Frollo couldn't comprehend the obsessive feelings he was having. And there's not much that is creepier than a person in a powerful position who believes that they're always right and suddenly becomes obsessed with someone else. That's never a good thing, and usually leads to monstrous events similar to what Frollo put Esmeralda and those around him through. After a series of events led to Esmeralda being captured by Claude Frollo, it was as if he wasn't even trying to mask his creepy tendencies. Frollo was ready to stand by his decision to kill Esmeralda if she didn't choose to be with him, and when he presented her with the option to be saved from execution by becoming his and his alone, she didn't hesitate with her answer. Esmeralda answered by spitting in his face, which led Frollo to choose option B, which meant that he ordered her to be killed by burning. Thankfully for Esmeralda, though, Quasimodo wasn't about to let his master hurt the only person who ever showed him any real kindness. But that wouldn't be the last time they saw Frollo. After he discovered that Esmeralda survived, he tracked them both down and tried to kill his adopted son and the woman he was obsessed with. In a very satisfying turn of events, though, Frollo saw himself dangling over the side of Notre Dame before falling down into what appeared to be a sea of hellfire below him. And finally, Esmeralda was safe from Claude and his creepy presence. Well, the only thing left to ask now is, what do you think was the real reason Claude Frollo became one of the most terrifying Disney villains of all time, despite him not having magical powers like Ursula or claws and teeth like Scar? Be sure to let me know in the comments below.